Welcome back to Insight Indonesia, brought to you by the Jakarta Globe. I'm your host, Lynn Neumann. Happy New Year, happy Chinese, happy Lunar New Year, Gong Si Fat Chai. Today we're talking with Joseph Chen and Alexandra Tan about the Peranakan community in Indonesia. Things were not always easy for the Chinese community, obviously, even though there have been Chinese in Indonesia since, as you said, the 16th century, here and throughout Southeast Asia, where China's overseas Chinese have had an amazing influence. How did things change, and what are the real changes that have made a big difference in the lives for people in the community?
Okay, I see the changes start in the Gus Dur era. Gus Dur, with the presidential decree number 6 in the 2000, he canceled the presidential instruction in back in 1967 about the Chinese tradition, and then confirmed by President Megawati during 2002, also the presidential decree that confirmed that the Chinese New Year become the national holiday.
Mm-hmm. Now, the 1967 decree was signed in the aftermath of the terrible events of 1965
yes,
and
exactly.
the attempted coup, etc. What exactly did that decree prohibit?
What I understand here is that they prohibit about anything religions, and then culture, belief, and Chinese traditions. So anything but Chinese, like letters, names, sounds, anything. So since that moment, I think it's similar like that time Cultural Revolution in China. So everything just vanished, almost everything, I would say.
So Alexander, you grew up in that period, obviously, but under that decree. What was it like to be a Chinese kid in Indonesia? Were you invisible? I don't mean literally invisible, obviously, but that would be in an Indonesian ghost movie. But
well, I guess it depends, because I happens to be the seventh generation, and I guess I'm also I believe there must be a mixed blood in between with my ancestors. So I'm not considered really a Chinese in that matter, but I know during my time the still more original Chinese, they do have problems obtaining school educations, or and they also have problems, of course, speaking proper Indonesian. So that also handicap them for mixing with the local Indonesians. In that case, I'm kind of benefited that I happen to grow up in more Indonesian way. I suppose if you are no longer a homeland is China, your homeland is Indonesia, you carry yourself as Indonesian, that would help a great lot, yes. So I don't see much problem, but I'm aware of what you're trying to say. Yes.
Well, I think the goal, obviously, of Indonesia as a country has always been tolerance and racial harmony, because it is such a mixture of cultures. It's not just Chinese and Indonesian. It's dozens and dozens of cultures trying to get along together. Do you get the sense, since the Gus Dur's actions, that the Chinese genuinely are much more accepted as real, so-called real Indonesians, which shouldn't even be an issue, of course?
Oh yeah, I think so. And start from that moment, the most obvious is the Chinese New Year celebration. You can see the barongsai, the lion dance in the malls, and lanterns everywhere. It's impossible before, and that's the most obvious. And also the booming of the Chinese language in the school language course everywhere now.
Yeah.
Even the state schools, government schools, they also have the Mandarin in school.
I think also before with the KTP, ID card, with the passport, they always, if you happen to already change your name, then they always refer, what is your previous name? They still ask your previous name.
Really? Even
yes.
if even people who change to an Indonesian name.
Yeah.
We have so-called
SPKRI.
ganti nama.
SPKRI and ganti
which
nama.
I don't have a ganti nama, but I know people will ask, the official will always ask, what is your previous name? But I think nowadays those kind of questions is
also eliminated. I cannot remember what kind of government regulation, but obviously we are not required anymore to present the SPKRI. SPKRI is Surat Bukti Kewarganegaraan Indonesia, is the evidence that we are Indonesian citizenship. But not
Because there was
anymore.
always that suspicion. Are you really?
Yeah.
Are you really? The overseas Chinese have suffered from this everywhere. Are you really Americans? I mean, the community in the United States went through this same thing, and a very racial, racist profiling of the Chinese for 100 years or more in the United States, which thankfully now is over. And I think the greatest tribute, though, to the change is that now Chinese New Year is just another chance for the mall to sell stuff. You know, it's okay. It's lanterns.
Yeah,
Take down the Christmas trees. Put up the lanterns.
Another
have a
merriment,
sale.
yes,
Another occasion.
merriment.
Sale time.
It's become another notch on the commercial calendar.
Okay, exactly.
You know, along with Halloween, anything the malls can find is an excuse to sell
Yes,
stuff.
indeed. Yes. Next to the Valentine.
Yeah.
Do you feel, though, that, in a serious note, I mean, the events of 1998 are not long ago, when there was the burnings in Chinatown and such terrible things happened. Do you think people now feel secure that that's never going to happen again? Do you feel secure?
I never feel insecure. To answer you, I don't feel insecure. As I said, maybe to some, I believe there some insecurity still remains. It depends different parts. Yeah, because like if you are in rural area, I mean in other cities, in Bandung or in Surabaya, this kind of things also doesn't really, you don't really feel it. It's only was in Jakarta that happens.
Sure.
Yeah.
Myself, I feel quite secure because this depends on ourselves where we are. You're talking about riots, racial turmoil everywhere, not only Indonesia. Just depend. I was there in '98. I was here in '98, and it went through. To me, it's terrible, but it's past. It depends on ourselves how we bring to the society, how we bring ourselves to the society, how we behave and how we interact and how we communicate and we blend in society. If we pull ourselves to be exclusive, that's not good. I think the same way is like in the other country, like in US or any other place.
Well, it's one of the tributes to Indonesia's recent history that, following the turmoil of '98, of course, that the country returned to stability.
Yeah.
It didn't veer into absolute chaos, which was what many people were predicting in '98, balkanization of Indonesia, etc. And so I think that is a tribute to the stabilizing forces in Indonesia that really do want to keep the nation together. And among those, obviously, is the Chinese community, because everybody came back, right?
Yeah. So that moment, in a positive way, positive thinking, I would see as a turning point. So in the previously, it's have some gap between the Chinese and local Indonesian. Though '98 happened, it's really bitter, but afterwards, you see the totally changed, totally different situation.
When we come back, that's the period I want to talk about, which is the future, and what the boom in China has meant for the local community.
Okay,
You're
sure.
on Insight Indonesia, brought to you by the Jakarta Globe. Today we're celebrating Chinese New Year by discussing Peranakan culture and the Chinese community. Please stay with us.